Hello! So we are going to continue talking about similar triangles and solving using proportionality. Today we're going to be talking about a special case called side splitter theorem. So up here at the top, I'd like you to write down, please, side splitter theorem. Theorem. Okay, side splitter theorem says that if you have a line, if there's a line that is parallel, and the symbol for parallel is two lines that look kind of parallel, and that line cuts into proportional parts. Okay, so this makes a lot more sense when I draw a picture. If I have a triangle that looks like this, and I draw a couple of lines through it that are, if I could draw straight, parallel to the bottom side of the triangle. Remember, another way that we show parallel in a diagram is with these little play buttons, right? If you see the play buttons, we know they're parallel. Then what happens is that all of the parts that it is split into become proportional. So for example, if I label this A and this B, and this part X and this part Y, then I can use this to say that this part, A, would be proportional to part X, and this part B would be proportional to this part over here, Y. And of course, what that allows us to do is, by using these proportional ratios, we can cross multiply to solve for a given variable. So let me show you a couple of examples using what we have down here. Now you're going to want two colored pencils. That way you can identify the parts visually. I know that sometimes you hate using colored pencils. I promise you it's going to help. Okay. So let's take a look at the first problem here. And you'll notice that they've given us a ratio that they want us to complete. They're saying DC compared to HG is equal to CB, and then we have to figure out what the bottom one is. So let's find DC, and I'm just going to do this first one in blue. Here's DC, this little part here, and it says it matches up with HG. Okay, HG is right here. And you can see that they're in the same location, so that makes sense that they match up. Now it's telling us, okay, well, let's look at CB. Here's C and B, so we're talking about this little part. Which part do you think matches up with that? Do you see how the part up directly across from it is GF? So we would say that that matches up with GF. And if there were numbers associated with this, we could plug them in and we could solve. Now, they're not always that straightforward. Let's start by taking a look at the next one. The next one, we're starting with one that doesn't have a match. So we're starting with AB, and then we're not entirely sure what would match up with that. So let's wait. Okay, and then on the other one, we have AE, which is all the way across from here to here, A to E. See, here's E and here's A. And it says the AE matches up with AI, which makes sense. See how it's going all the way across? We can do any piece of this or any combination of pieces from here to here would be proportional, A to E. Okay? And so if it's saying we're comparing this little bit, right, and we already have a match, the part that matches up with AB would have to be AF, right? See, because they're a little match. So I'm going to say AF. I'll write that in pen. Okay, AF. All right, let's try a couple more. The first one here, we've got DH. Okay, DH looks like here and here. All right, DH. And then they're actually not using the matching part of that. They're looking at a different part, DA. So DH, and I'm going to go across all the way from D to A. So I'm using a combination of 1, 2, 3 parts. So I have one little part on the top, and then I have 1, 2, 3 parts on the bottom. Do you see how this creates a triangle? The triangle that we would be looking at is right here. See, I'm using this part of the triangle. This red pen not working, but you get the point. From here to here, I'm using this triangle. So we're going to compare that. If DH to DA, the other one that we have is BA, and that's along the same side as this. So now, if this was the top of a triangle, the part that would match up for that little triangle would be BF. See how this creates, I'm using the same two sides, one for a big triangle and one for a little triangle. So I could say that this one is BF, okay? So there's lots of ways that we can combine this, all right? Why don't you pause here, and I'd like you to try 4, 5, and 6 on your own. Okay, let's see how you did. So we're looking at ED, and then CB. So that CB is on the same line, and it's a different part. It wouldn't be a corresponding part, so I'm going to use a different color. I have ED here, and C to B here. Okay, then we're looking at HI, which matches up down here. So that's good. And so if they did ED and CB, then I want HI, and the part that would match up with that would have to be GH. See how there's lots of different combinations and ways that you could do this? GF. Alright, for this one, you have ED, which is right here, and then DB, which is along a same line, so, and it's not matching that corresponding part, so D to B. Then it says HI or IH, which matches ED, so I want the part that would match up with DB on the other line, and that would have to be HF, so you have HF, okay? And the last one for number 4, did you get GF? You should have gotten GF. Okay, so looking at this one, we have AB, and then we don't know what the one underneath it is. And then we're talking about AF, and AF would be the corresponding part to AB. So they said, okay, AB and AF, and then AF, the ratio they're creating with that is GI. So from here to here. So if these two parts go together, then I should have the top one match up with the part over here. GI, 2 parts, CE. Okay? So you can either say CE or EC, either way is fine. Okay? Alright, let's look at another couple here that have to do with more complicated triangles. So AE, alright, if I start with AE, that's a really long one. I tend to do the long ones at the top. A to E. I'm going all the way here. 1, 2, 3, 4 parts, that whole thing. And then it's having me compare that to EI, which is going a different way. Here's EI. So what I'm looking at is this triangle, this whole big triangle. Let me highlight that for you. So this entire triangle is the first triangle that we're comparing. Now it's having us look at A to C, which looks like the top side of a smaller triangle. So if this is the top side of the big triangle, and they use this side to close it up, I'm going to want to close up this smaller triangle, right? And if I fill this smaller triangle in so that we have a better way of seeing where it is, and I just realized you can't see this at all, so I apologize. Let me scroll down a bit. Okay, so here we've got AE, EI. I highlighted my big triangle. I have AC. There's my small triangle within that. So the matching part in the small triangle would be this side, CG. See how that would create two similar triangles if I'm using CG or GC? Right? Let's try another one. Alright, so looking at this one here, we've got AD, which looks pretty big. And then I don't know what goes below it. And then over here I have AB. So I have a big triangle and then the same side for a small triangle. It's actually going from here to here. We're that little part. So it looks like big triangle is going to be here. And my smaller triangle inside that is just going to be AB. And the part that they matched with AB is BF, so this side. That means that on my big triangle, what would match up with AD is this closing side of DH. Okay, so hopefully that helps. There's a couple other types of problems I want to show you that just have some overlapping parts, and then I'd like you to do some practice on your own. Okay? So if I'm looking at some of the overlapping parts here, I'm starting with BD. Here's B to D. And they're matching it with B to C. Okay? Here's BC. Okay? Alright, so BC. Right? And then, if I'm looking at that, it's giving us a blank here, and I need to figure out what FG is. Okay, so BC should match up with FG. Okay. So these two are matching parts. So these two should be matching parts. BD should match up with the same parts on the other side. HF. Or FH. Either way is fine. HF. I can get this to right. Okay. Alright. So if I'm looking at this one, I've got ED, a little short side here for ED. Okay, and then I don't know what matches it yet, so let's check out the next part. It says HI, ED, HI. HI is actually the part that matches this one. Okay, so then here, underneath it, they've given me IF. IF overlaps a bit. It goes all the way from here to here. IF. Alright? So, since this one matched this one, I need these two to match too. So, on the top line, it went from, on the bottom, it went from here to here. So, I need these three parts on the top line, E to B. Okay? So, we would say E, B. This takes a little practice and getting used to. I would like for you to finish these last two, and then there's some on the other side. If you want to complete them all for extra practice, you can, but mostly I would like you to focus on the odd number ones. That means I want you to do 13, 15, 17, 19, 21, 23, 25, and 27. So this column, right, the ones on the left. Okay, so you're going to finish up the last two on this page, and the first column on the next. Okay? Alrighty.